I've never had a home. Houses I've had. Oh, have I had houses. My mom was in the Navy, so those houses were all over the world. Hawaii, California, Guam. Even as an adult, the houses I had kept moving, from Carrollton to San Francisco to New York City. I think it's important that we make this distinction, the house versus the home, because while I had all these houses and all these cities, in none of them did I ever feel a sense of home. I think that's because my earliest houses, the ones many would consider a home, did not represent me, they did not comfort me, they did not affirm me. The people I shared these spaces with seemed like aliens. Everything around me felt foreign, the decor, the customs, the history, the ancestors. I essentially grew up a stranger in a strange land. This taught me how to blend in anywhere, a talent I was grateful for with each move. If I was no one, I could become anyone. Living like this became normal. Being a stranger became normal. Even when I met my now husband and we started sharing houses together, the idea of home was still absent. He too moved around a lot as a child. It's a shared experience that colors our life together. Queer people are very familiar with the idea of chosen family, that we get to choose our family. Sometimes we have to choose our family. But we never discuss where that family dwells. Is it a house or a home? Or is it something new we get to create? You see, I believe queer people are immigrants, but immigrants without a homeland, without a language, without a history. Right now in Texas, in this state, there are 78 bills and counting being presented to the Texas Congress that continue to other me, my husband, and my chosen family. These bills refuse to acknowledge the contributions that we've made to this country, to the state, to the society. These bills pervert language into shackles meant to immobilize us. These bills force us to flee the Lone Star State for a not-so-lonely land. Queer people are born into a world that is not of them, given language and tools that are not of them, and expected to walk a path that is not of them. And when we dare to deviate, we're labeled freak, groomer, pinned down in a locker room and mocked, prayed over for a deliverance we do not need to a God who says we are an abomination. Guess who's doing this bullying? People from loving homes. Why would I want that? Why would I embrace something that never embraced me? Why would any queer person ever want a home? Well, my husband did, and he gave me this gift of betrayal one day over a lunch of poke. He nervously tells me that he has set aside $10,000 in a separate account for a down payment on a house. Most people would be ecstatic that a pathway to the North American dream lay before them. Me? I'm not most people. And while I did see that pathway, I also saw a decision made without me and a secret account with a ton of money that I did not have access to. Setting aside the dramatic language and the ego revealed an invitation to discuss what success means to us as individuals and as a couple. As we explored buying a house, it became evident that for my husband, a house represented safety and security. This fictional structure to him was a goal he'd been striving toward for years, unconsciously. He actually wanted that North American dream. While we shared a similar upbringing of ever-changing addresses and a rootless existence, I realized we were on two different paths, walking next to each other hand in hand, and now there was a fork in that road. His nomadic childhood was leading him to set down roots. My path was still undefined. I was learning that a house was never on my life plan. My only dream growing up was to live in New York City. And owning anything in that city is a pipe dream accessible to a select few. I had resigned the suburban life before the 12th grade, and now in my 39th grade, the suburban life was knocking on my door. I was ambivalent to that knock. On the one hand, this was very important to my husband. On the other hand, I was neutral about the whole thing, really. It was something I never thought was possible, so I had no desire either way. And that's where it got interesting for me. Why? Outside of the New York reasoning, why did owning a home never make its way into my dreams? Considering this Norman Rockwell image is injected into every movie, every sitcom, every ad, wouldn't it go to reason that a walk-in closet would eventually make it to my vision board? But it never did. While my husband was discovering one of his dreams, I was wrestling with one of my nightmares. Is the idea of home accessible for queer people? Is it accessible for this queer person? Am I now betraying my husband by admitting I never wanted a home? These questions and their potential answers swirl around in my head like a cyclone, kicking up tumbleweeds of insecurity and doubt, and then I look over and I catch my husband smiling at the anticipation of achieving his dream. The smile I love so much, especially when it follows one of my jokes or one of my sweet sentiments. What sweeter sentiment is there than to quiet my nightmare and walk with my husband toward his dream? The answer? We find a house. It's a lot of house for two people buying their first. 4-bedroom, 3.5 bath, a den, a kitchen, a living room, a dining room, and a yet-to-be-defined room. We walk the space, and he's as giddy as a schoolboy. He tries to invite me into his joy, saying things like, "This could be your library," or "You could paint a mural here." It's cute, him giving me homework for a class I never registered for. Spoiler alert, we buy the house. So the deed is done, literally. And the first thing I do, I get 8 lipsticks and I start to paint that pig. I find paints that mirror the original queer flag, the one created by Gilbert Baker in 1978. This flag has teal and pink in it, 2 extra colors in the flag that traditionally adorns businesses every June. Curious how they disappear after 30 days, but I digress into a kaleidoscope of color. And each of these colors have a meaning, so I intentionally choose a color to best fit the room. Our library will be green, the color of nature. It overlooks a field of grass, the closest thing Dallas has to nature. My studio will be teal, the color of magic, where I will write and create and meditate. My husband's office will be blue, the color of tranquility, because between you and me, he could use some. Our bedroom will be pink, the color of sex, for obvious reasons. Our guest room will also be pink, a different shade, mind you, because I hope that anyone who stays with us gets lucky. Our den, red, the color of life, because we watch more film and television than I'd like to admit. Our kitchen, orange, the color of healing, so that what is made there will nourish and heal our minds and bodies. Our living room and dining room, yellow, the color of sunlight, which is appropriate as those rooms abound with windows. I am beginning to build my home. I am cobbling together something for my queer siblings who, like me, may not feel they have a land to come home to. I am deprogramming the North American dream by replacing that white picket fence with a rainbow flag. I transform the 2.5 children around the dinner table into 24 deviants raising glasses of wine and whiskey to equality and equity. I transform that dog into 2 cats. That's it, no statement. Cats are just easier to take care of. I am no longer quieting my nightmare, but I am waking up to the reality that I will do what my queer ancestors have done before me. I will build what I need to survive. I will build what I want to thrive. Discarding societal norms that do not serve me, I will pave a path for my people to find a home to rest and revel in before they do what I am doing, build their own. My husband found his dream home, and I am building my home into my very own dream.